It's a Tuesday, which means one thing. Lance Reisland making his weekly appearance on Locked On Browns to talk about everything that went wrong and right for the Cleveland Browns on Sunday against the Vikings. We also got a rookie quarterback who made his first start. We'll talk about all that and more coming up on the Locked On Browns podcast.
You are Locked On Browns, your daily Cleveland Browns podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, Dog Pound? I'm Spencer German, your host of the Locked On Browns podcast, and proudly covering your Cleveland Browns each and every single day in the land and on the road. It's Lance Reisland Day here on the pod. We talked to him about break down a couple plays on offense, break down a couple plays on defense, and then we get into some more of the specifics about what happened against the Vikings in the Browns' 21-17 loss in London. First, though, I do want to thank you for being in every day with the Locked On Browns podcast, making us your first listen every single day. And remember, you can find Cleveland Browns content with Locked On Browns every week, Monday through Friday, guaranteed. Lance, you know I always enjoy having you on for your perspective on things. We'll start. I know we got a couple plays to get into, but just overall, how did you feel as you watched this game play out? Obviously, a game that it felt like the Browns were in control of for much of it. Felt like a game that they kind of let slip away when it's all said and done, when they were leading as late into the game as they were. But, you know, just some things didn't come together at key spots, and they end up falling short here. But as you watch that one unfold, just kind of what was going through your head?
Well, that's a tough loss. You know, people say what you want, and people always say, does that carry over to next Sunday or win or loss? It doesn't really carry over to the next Sunday. What it carries over into today's meetings, tomorrow's meetings, you know, when you're the Tuesday, they're off, obviously, but when you get back into it, that energy getting going, that attention to detail practice. So first and foremost, it's a product-based system league. You got to win, and they lost, and that's the bottom line. I thought they did some good things. I'm actually a little bit different about how things were handled. For me, I've heard a lot of different stuff. A lot of people have different views, and I'm not necessarily saying those views are wrong. What I'm saying is, for me, as a coordinator and as a former head coach, I like to play to my strengths. And the strengths of this football team, without question, is their defense. And, you know, the conservative play calling at the end, all the, you know, some of the missed throws, there's some big misses that I'll be going over this week on my stuff. But the big thing is they had to go 80 yards, and they did it with an injured quarterback against the number one defense in the league. And for me, I always say end every drive in a kick. And I'm not necessarily saying, you know, people want to be more aggressive and take the training wheels off. And for me, you know, I wasn't necessarily on board, and you know how much I like Dillon Gabriel. So for me, It was, I thought they did everything in this particular game to win. And it's one of those things. Think about it. They put the ball up. You know, he gets an interception. They have to go 30 yards. You know, end of the game. I think those timeout for me, they assumed. I think Kevin assumed they weren't going to give up a touchdown. So he's trying to keep time on the clock for a field goal. So there's a bunch of different stuff. But for me, it all comes down to this. You had your defense on the field. You had your defense on the field. The number one defense in the league. You protected the quarterback. You protected that defense. They didn't come through. It doesn't mean they're bad. It just means on that particular time they didn't come through. Yeah. I'm okay with it. I'm not happy with the loss, but I'm okay with the process by which they did it. They put it in the hands of the defense.
Well, I'm glad you bring that up, because I do want to get to that later in the show, because I do have a different perspective on it. So we can you know, go back and forth on that a little bit. And I value your perspective. You know that, especially as a coach, getting into the mind of what a coach is thinking in that spot and what you might do or what a coach might do, I think is very, very fascinating. So I look forward to deciphering that a little bit further. But let's start on the offensive side here, Lance, where Kevin Stefanski decided, hey, we're starting Dillon Gabriel. We're trying to inject some life into this offense and do something a little bit different. And listen, I thought overall he played pretty well. I think it was a solid performance that should leave fans feeling interested or curious about seeing more from him as he gets a little bit more on his play as the weeks continue. But we're going to break down three plays in particular from Gabriel here. And the first one, of course, I think it's fitting that this is the first play. But the touchdown to actually, is this the right play?
No, go back. Go back a little bit.
There it is,
buddy.
The touchdown pass to Harold Fannin Jr., which was in the first quarter. I'll let you sort of take it from here, because I thought this was a really nice play design and a good one to get the Browns on the board.
All right, so they did a really nice job. So let's be really clear about Dillon Gabriel. They didn't test him too much. But once again, going back to, sometimes people have differences. I was okay with that because I thought against this team, against this offensive line, the defensive line did not, didn't do what they were supposed to do, in my opinion. They didn't dominate like they should have. So I thought they were protecting him a little bit, and I thought they're protecting that defense. Anyway, so what they did is they did a lot of this, like a little bit of rollout, move the pocket a little bit, move the launch point. This touchdown was a great example of it. So what you're going to get from the Vikings, obviously, is you're going to get a 6-2 front. So if you look across the front, you're going to get 6 guys down. The guy in the red is in charge of Fannin. Now, here's a couple of tells for the quarterback. So as they bring this guy in motion, people say, what is motion for? You'll see that Thrash comes in motion. Thrash actually does not do a great job at what he's supposed to do. So if that guy is facing me, I want to go through his inside shoulder on that rub route. Defensive guys call it a pick. I like to call it a rub because rubs are not illegal. So he does not. He does an okay job, but he gets the eyes of that linebacker. Now, as he gets the eyes on linebacker, it's a simple rollout. Now, the reason this is successful is because Judkins had so much success. So as you reach down, they block a little gap scheme there, a little play action, showing that gap scheme makes it kind of hard for that linebacker to get. So he gets caught up, and it's really, really easy. Njoku's going to drag 85 on the backside. Judy is actually the second option for Dillon. He's coming all the way across. He's the receiver on the right, number 3, coming all the way across. He's running a pylon. We used to call that a back end zone find route, right? You're just running across the back. But Dillon knows he's got Fannin right away because the corner runs with Thrash. And once the corner runs with Thrash, that's why you use motion. So, there's a bunch of different ways to create leverage. But down in the red zone on these short play action passes, you're simply running motion to create some rubs and to see what coverage you have. And right here, you had man coverage, easy. He throws the ball well on the run. This is what he does well. There's some things he missed, but this is one of his strengths, knowing what the coverage he's seeing and delivering the ball on time, easy to catch. So this is simple pick route. Thrash does an okay job. I'll give him a B+ on it, but really good route by Fannin and great throw by Dillon.
Yeah, I love the way that this was sort of set up, and because the run game was working so effectively too, he did a nice job in the play action, sort of held that player on the end there, as you talked about, that backer, and then that allowed Fannin to sort of just like pretend like he was going to block and then just get wide open. As we talk through these plays and we talk about Dillon Gabriel and his first start, I thought this was another example of how Kevin Stefanski made life pretty easy for him, like giving him an easy throw like that for an easy touchdown. I thought it was a really well done play. And, on a day where I think certainly people walked away with some questions about Kevin Stefanski, I think this was one of the plays that made you feel like, okay, this is why, Kevin is Kevin and that he knows what he's doing. So I thought that was a great play.
And if you look at it, so that defensive end, because of Judkins, because people want to know what a run game does for you. That defensive end he's got to spill everything. He's the edge player, so he's got to set the edge. Not only is he in coverage, but usually have multiple roles down in the red zone as a defender. Because remember, they're taking defensive backs out. It's because you have 6 defensive linemen. So not only does he have Fannin in coverage, but he's got run support. He's got D gap responsibility. So having D-gap responsibility, the success of Judkins running the ball, all you need is a pause in the NFL. If your feet aren't moving, you lose, and that's what happened.
Yeah, really nicely designed play, as we talked about. I want to go next to the David Njoku's play. This was right before the half, final drive. The Browns are on the move, and this play got them down into the red zone. I thought this was, in my opinion, the best throw that Dillon Gabriel made on the day on sort of a smash concept towards the sideline, layered throw over sort of bracketed coverage to Njoku. I'll let you walk us through it here, Lance, because you know better than I. But I thought this really was Gabriel's best throw of the day.
All right, so if you look at the Browns start out in trips. They're going to have 3-by-1 with 3 receivers on the left with Jerry Jeudy at 3 strong. You have Harold Fannin at 2 strong. And you have Isaiah Bond at 1 strong. On the other side, you got David Njoku at 1 strong. When Jeudy comes in motion, 1 weak. When Jeudy comes in motion, he now becomes 2 weak. So here's what it does to the defense. Now, first thing for the quarterback, as that goes in motion, all those little motions that are really, really slow, people have asked me in the last 2 days, what do the motions do? It simply declares coverage for the quarterback. So as Jeudy goes in motion, he knows it's zone because no one runs with him. Now, as he gets across, they end up in 2x2. Because they don't move, there's a 2 shell. And if you look at the corner that I have starred, there's a corner that's solid with star, and then that safety over there. Now, that safety, he's in charge. They're going to run a cover 2 or a cover 4, or what we like to call, it's kind of a combination. We used to call it a read 2, which basically means the corner is going to drop, even though the safety's got to get over top and he has half the field. The corner is going to drop if there's no threat to his boundary, no threat to his flat, so in front of him. So if Judy doesn't run that out route, he will continue to get depth, even though it's cover 2, because no one is threatening his flat. You've heard terms of read 4, palms. That's basically what it means. It means it's cover 2, but don't waste the corner if there's no one in the flat. And that's a very simple rule in high school. If there's no one there, keep backpedaling. In the pros, you're trying to see what they got. So as Judy, that corner is going to see Judy run that out route, and he's going to stop his feet. If you watch the film, if you watch the end zone of the all 22, right when he stops his feet is when the ball is let go. And Njoku is not even at the top of his route yet. It's such a really good throw. He's going to squeeze it into that safety who's going to come over the top and over top of that corner. And he's going to hit, we used to call that's the hole shot between the corner and the safety. That's a really hard throw. You have to be on time because in the NFL, that corner almost made the play, but in the NFL, that's open. And he also did a really nice job of using Njoku's athleticism and high pointing the ball. So really good throw, great timing. He knew the coverage. This is what he does well. Now he's got to hit some more of these chunk plays, but this was a very good read and an outstanding throw versus that palms read 4 coverage. Great throw to Njoku. I still think Njoku has to get the ball more, but this is a great throw. Really impressive with the timing and where he threw it.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, it being the layered throw that it was with that corner sort of sunk underneath and the safety coming over the top, I thought was brilliantly placed by Dillon Gabriel. And like I said, on a day where he had some inconsistencies throwing the football, I thought this one stood out for sure. Really, really nice ball, really, really nice play design. And it felt like that was a play where, like, you saw Gabriel, getting, like, as the game went on, you could see it like working for him a little bit more. He was starting to feel things a little bit more. And I thought that play sort of showed that. We'll stick with Njoku, because the next play we wanted to highlight, of course, was the second touchdown pass from Dillon Gabriel. And I thought this was a really nice play too, because, I mean, the throw was really good, but it was more so for me what Dillon Gabriel did before the throw when I went back and watched this play on tape that stood out.
All right, so you have if you look at it, it's very similar. You have 2 safeties that are deep. The one that's circled ends up becoming the key to the play, and I'll get to that here in a second. So Njoku, you can see I have him purple. He's the star. He's the touchdown catch. So here's what ends up happening. So they line up in kind of a snug, we used to call it double snug. And again, Fannin is going to out motion or exit motion or cheetah motion. This became famous, with our Miami guy who is now hurt and struggling. But this cheetah motion or out motion, I used to call it exit motion. So he's going to go out. Now, if it was zone coverage, the corner who's over top of Judy would just bump out. But because 44, the nickel, he runs with, it immediately tells the quarterback that it's a man coverage. Now, as compared to cover 4 or palms in the plate I just ran, now that he knows it's 2. Now, how does he know it's 2? Well, first of all, he ran. That tells him it's man underneath. And if you look at the running back, right, you're going to see the running back next to the quarterback, and you see that linebacker who's over the right tackle, shaded with RT. That backer is walked up a little bit. And as a quarterback, that's a key. The reason he's walked up is because he has him in man coverage. So what you have is you have man coverage with the guy over top of the center. He's kind of a free hitter. He's a tackler. But the key to this play is knowing that it's man coverage. Now that he knows it's man coverage, the safety on the right side, or what's in the circle, becomes the key. Because the quarterback, Gabriel, knows by leverage that Njoku with his route is going to beat both the outside backer and the safety simply by leverage. The only person that can make this play is the backside safety. And again, when you watch the end zone copy, really nice job by Gabriel. He will catch the ball and he will stare at that safety that's in the circle. And then he delivers a great ball to Njoku, who, again, as I said, wins by leverage. So again, the short motion, the exit motion, the Tyreek Hill motion, that tells you right away that that's man coverage. If it's man coverage, then those 2 safeties, this is called 2-man. Everybody's in man underneath, and you got the 2 safeties that have half the field helping over top. Once again, once you know it's man underneath, all you got to do is you're going to beat that guy inside. Got to beat that safety. Really easy throw, but the recognition early was the key.
Yeah, I noticed the same thing you did on the end zone copy of the play on when I went back and watched the all 22, and you just see Gabriel holding the safety off to the left, and it creates just enough space for him to zip that ball in there, and that's where his strong arm comes into play because he was able to get it in still in sort of a tight window to Njoku for the touchdown. And again, I thought that was another play that just showed as the game speed was speeding up, he was picking things up and getting it too. So really nice job. And I think those 3 plays certainly told the story largely on offense for this team. We'll come back to Gabriel here coming up in the final segment. But up next, we got to talk about the play that everyone's talking about, the game-winning touchdown for the Vikings. What went wrong? Lance will break it down for us coming up next on the Locked On Browns podcast. This episode is brought to you by PrizePicks. Every day we make decisions, but on PrizePicks, being right can actually get you paid. Don't miss the excitement of this football season with PrizePicks, where it's good to be right. Playing PrizePicks is just a fun, simple way to add more excitement to football. You just pick more or less on player projections, like Josh Allen's passing yards or Saquon Barkley's rushing or touchdown for a touchdown, and you're in the game. It's quick, easy, and honestly, one of my favorite ways to follow along with the football season. You can create your lineup in a matter of a minute, and they've added a new injury reboot feature where if your player leaves early and doesn't return due to an injury, it will not count against you. Download the PrizePicks app today and use code LOCKEDONNFL to get $50 in lineups when you play your first $5 lineup. That's code LOCKEDONNFL for $50 in lineups after your first $5 play. PrizePicks, it's good to be right. All right, Lance, I think this next play is probably the most controversial play of the game and the week. Well, maybe not, because some of the Stefanski stuff that we'll get into coming up is also equally as controversial. But this was certainly a controversial one. As you alluded to earlier, Vikings driving 80 yards, and this is the play that capped it all off, the Jordan Addison touchdown pass to eventually lead the Vikings to victory. We know what Denzel Ward said after the game. He took the blame on this play, but let's break it down here real quick because I think it's worth it for people to just kind of get a sense of what went wrong on this play and what allowed Jordan Addison to get so open and then score this game-winning touchdown.
All right, let's start with what Gabriel sees. So Gabriel's going to come to the line of scrimmage, and I'm sorry, let's talk about what Wentz is going to see. Yeah. Wentz is going to come up to the line of scrimmage, and he's going to survey the field. Now, for the most part, the Browns are usually in man coverage down here. They're not in man coverage. And I like what they did here because it tells me they're trying to prevent the touchdown. The field goal was already kind of like a given. They're trying to prevent the touchdown. So they're in more of a shell here, which I agree with. Now, this is very interesting. We talked about cover 2. We talked about cover 4. So this is called cover 6. And we're going to start over on the left side away from the Hickman and Ward on the touchdown side. So if you start on the other side, Newsome was deep. He was about 8 to 12 yards. And you had Delpit, who was about 10 to 12 yards. They're deep. So literally they're in cover 4 to that side. And Miles Harden, he's the flat defender to that side. So those guys, if you think about it in terms of how things they're covering, Newsome has 1/4 of the field. Delpit has 1/4 of the field, and then the flat underneath is covered by Harden. That's on that side. Now, if you go over to the other side, now you have cover 2. Now that means Ward is in the flat there, and that means Hickman is over top. So why did Ward take the blame? When I was texting with you today, you said that he had taken the blame. I had not listened to that because I try to get right into the film and just kind of see it with my own eyes. So what Wentz is seeing, he sees 2 cover 6, but really for me, quarterbacks look at it this way. He's simply saying on the right side, I got cover 2. On the left side, I got cover 4. What's my best look? Well, it's going to be to this side. It shouldn't be, and here's why. Ward, who at the bottom here, you can see how I have Ward, who is in the red triangle. He's outside leverage of Addison. The only way you can get beat here is if you have an outside release. Now, that's awesome that Ward took blame for this. However, this is the same thing that we teach our kids in high school, college, pro. In cover 2, you have to make that receiver go inside. So if you look at Addison, the guy who's in front of Ward, if he is forced to release inside, even if Ward doesn't get his hands on him, he has to release inside and then get back outside. Because Ward lets him outside, it becomes an easy, we call that a hole shot. Again, kind of like what I said with the Njoku smash concept. So he's going to throw it over top of Ward, who's in the flat, and he's going to throw it before Hickman can get over there because of the easy outside release. So regardless, that's like a general rule in football in cover 2. If I'm in a true cover 2, you absolutely cannot, without question, have an easy outside release. Even if you don't touch him, Ward has got him. If Ward doesn't do anything and just stands outside of Addison, and Addison has to go vertical before he goes outside, Hickman can get over top. So he does not. You get an outside release. This is 100% on Ward. He owned it, but that's what ended up happening there. It's simply he allowed the outside release.
Yeah, and if you watch the play back, you see Ward sort of plays up in his face, almost like he's almost trying to sort of sell like it is going to be man, because he is up in his face and he does kind of try to jam at the line and then he backs off. But like you said, he gives him that outside release, and Addison did a nice job of like recognizing like, hey, I got to get outside here. And that's part of the reason why the leverage he had trying to play down. He was more in like a slot position off of the tight end, because he was like, I got to give myself some place to run. And you're right, though. Like if Ward forces that inside, he makes it a lot easier for Hickman to kind of come over and recover. Having to cover without it going inside, like you could tell in the play, Hickman's running full speed. It's just too far of a run for him to make to try to get in coverage and make a play on that ball.
Well, let me tell you how this like works at a simple level that everybody can understand. When I was coaching in high school and I would work with my young defensive backs, so they're 14, 15 years old if they're sophomores. Imagine there's a 14-year-old kid over there who's not very good, and the receiver that is there is very good. We would actually tell our corners, line up outside, and just if he's trying to release outside, just shuffle your feet. Even if you don't get your hands on him, once he releases inside, you've done what you need to do for the safety. Yeah. Now, as you get older and you get more talented, you can do different things. But the only thing you can't do in cover 2, especially down the red zone, only where you can get beat is outside. So that's what I think what frustrated Denzel a lot more than anything else is that he knows that. In cover 2, he just absolutely killed his safety. And we used to tell our guys, win by alignment. Simply line up 3 yards outside, make him go vertical first. Because if he goes any vertical at all, Hickman will get over the top.
It did feel like in general, Lance, first of all, well said, as always. I think you did a nice job breaking that down for people to kind of understand in a simple way. But overall, it felt like this was maybe, I mean, worst is a relative word, but I did think the defense seemed like they were giving up more big plays than usual, and the Vikings found ways to kind of move the ball on them. Just what did you notice about what they were able to take advantage of with the Browns defense that other teams maybe haven't, that had them have some success moving the football up and down the field?
Well, the first thing is they have an alpha, right? Anytime you have an alpha, it's players over plays. So everybody says like that seam route, that's catch on the sidelines. Ward can't cover it any better. Sometimes Ward makes that play. Sometimes you just have an alpha and you throw it up to him. And that's the way it works. That's the way football works. I've designed a lot of plays in my life, and it's always amazing how much better those plays are when you throw them to really good players. So that's the first thing is they have an alpha. Anytime you have an alpha, you can have some success. Now, in the run game, they did some really cool things. They took kind of the thought process that Todd Monken from the Ravens used, which is kind of these guys get upfield. Let's let them get upfield a little bit. Let's trap them. Let's kick them out on counters. Let's use a lot of motion. If you remember Jefferson going in the backfield, try to make backers cover out of the backfield. So there's some things you can do. So you attack the safeties and linebackers in man coverage. You trap them. So basically what you're doing is you're saying, okay, run upfield like you normally do. But as you see the game goes along, the Browns made the defense and they made the changes, and they were pretty dominant in that third quarter into the fourth quarter. You're going to give up some plays in this type of defense. But what you got in this defense is kind of the balance this week where you're going to get the turnovers because you're playing with your hair on fire. So even though you get trapped, even though things happen, you're anticipating with this mayhem, you're going to get some turnovers. And that's what ended up happening. They got some turnovers because of the mayhem, because people are flying around and stripping the ball. That's what this defense is. So even though they gave up some plays, they played well enough to win, except for that last drive. And that last drive, they kind of went away from what they do. But there's some thought process behind that too, which we'll talk about. But it's not that they had a ton of success, in my opinion. It was a very good offensive plan, and they had some plays. But the Browns had some plays too, and that's what happens. First and foremost, if you think they're big plays, those are just alpha. Go get it.
Yeah,
that's okay. but some of those run plays were really, really, really well schemed up, and the Browns made the adjustment after they got trapped and countered a couple times.
We still have a couple of things to discuss with Lance, including what he thought overall of his boy Dillon Gabriel's performance. We'll also talk about some of the decision-making from Kevin Stefanski. Keep it locked on the Locked On Browns podcast. This episode is brought to you by Mazda, and Mazda crafts cars for those who do more than simply move. Mazda delivers confidence with every ride, with more IIHS Top Safety Pick Plus awards than anyone else. As of August 2025, they make cars that keep you and your family protected. From footwork to breathe work, athletes sweat all the details. Mazda brings the same intention to how they craft every model. You can feel Japanese craftsmanship in every detail, from the metallic accents to available Napa leather upholstery. Plus, all-wheel drive comes standard in every crossover SUV, so you can drive with confidence through almost any season, which is great if you live in Cleveland like me, because this time of year, sometimes you can get all 4 seasons in one day. Let's just be honest. Like our players, we sweat every detail, because when you make every move count, impossible becomes irrelevant. Mazda, move and be moved. All right, Lance. So overall, Dillon Gabriel, like we talked about earlier, I thought he delivered sort of a solid performance as a whole. But we know it wasn't perfect. There were some mistakes made. I guess if you had to just sort of assess, I don't know if you want to do like a letter grade for it or whatever, just what did you think overall from Gabriel's first start in terms of what he was asked to do in the structure of an offense that clearly Kevin Stefanski designed to sort of protect him from making the big mistakes and make sure he could be comfortable?
Well, it's a good stepping stone, right? So if you think about it, you start your scaffold, right? You don't go right into calculus. You got algebra, geometry. So think about it as a class. You got to kind of build up to it. And I thought they did a really nice job as a staff, kind of preparing him, creating some easy throws. And you also think about the first thing that you got to do is every drive ended in a kick, which gave them a chance at the end of the game. And I know that sounds redundant, but that's how with this team, that's your best, in my opinion, the best way to win. So I thought he missed some throws. There's one throw that he hits Sampson in the flat for a pretty good gain. Njoku comes wide open on a corner route. There's another one. There's a seam route that is really, really wide open. Again, I'll post those this week. I haven't really broken those down and kind of see what he's looking at. But again, he had some chunk play misses that I think hopefully that's the next progression. But he protected the football. He didn't look overwhelmed. There's some, Flores is not an easy guy to start with. So I thought that's the kind of the game plan for everybody, not just a rookie. I thought he accounted for himself pretty well. Obviously, for them to be successful, the first thing starts with protecting the football, which he's going to do. He's going to do that often. Now you have to start making plays. But he made enough plays. The offense made enough plays. Even in those last couple drives where everybody's been yelling at me all day, the defense had a chance to stop them. They had to go 80 yards. I will take that every time as a football coach. I got my alphas on the field against a beat-up Vikings offensive line, a beat-up quarterback. I will take that every single time.
Yeah, listen, I think Gabriel played well. I don't know that it wasn't like a light the stats up sheet performance. Obviously, I don't know that was ever going to be the case with the offense that Kevin Stefanski sort of had designed for him. But like I said earlier, I think fans should leave intrigued by what he showed you and feel like, okay, like I think stepping stone's a good word for it. Honestly, it's a chance for him to kind of build on that and see what else he can do. And I'm sure there'll be more on his plate as time goes on. Let's talk about some of those decisions that you alluded to, though. And you talked about this a little bit earlier in the show as well. But so my thing is this, Lance, and I understand certainly like the coaching perspective on this, and I appreciate the coaching perspective on this too. I just think, you get the ball with 3:27, you only kill 22 seconds. And because you threw the ball on third down and it was incomplete, you didn't even get them to burn their third timeout, which would have at least been helpful in some respects, right? So I just felt like in the end, I don't know, and maybe this is just like, and we're in two different generations, I guess, when it comes to our ages, even though we are very similar. I guess like maybe it's a generational thing. I guess I would rather be like, you know what, if I'm going down knowing like we tried to win this thing and not just like leave it up to the other team to sort of decide our fate. And I understand you have a really good defense. I get that. But I don't know. I kind of wanted to see if they'd be a little more aggressive in that spot. and actually try to pick up the first down. Or I think where I think I struggled the most was that Kevin sort of tried to do both. He tried to get them to burn their timeouts with the 2 runs, but then he was like, all right, well, let's try to pick up the first down. And because he tried to go for an 11-yard play, then the ball is incomplete, and now you stop the clock and you sort of gifted them another stoppage of the clock. I just wish he either would have committed to one or the other. But in my opinion, I feel like I just wanted to see him be a little more aggressive, or maybe run it the first time and then draw up a play where it's an easy completion for Gabriel, and he can make a throw that's going to keep the clock moving. And even if the play doesn't work, you're still moving the clock. But at the same time, or you let them burn a timeout. But at the same time, maybe you do gain some yards. Maybe it's a screen pass. Maybe it's a quick little out route. Like, he designs stuff all the time for Gabriel Shador. We saw it in the preseason that were just the easy throws. I know he's capable of doing that. So I guess I just wanted to see him be a little bit more aggressive there instead of just run the ball twice into a filled box and then try to get the first down. I don't know. And again, I get you have a great defense that you're not expecting is going to let you up, but I also think this exposed sort of the flaw in the machine here, Lance, to a degree, because yes, you have that great defense, but at the same time, with how much the game plan is always the defense has to play almost perfect. And I think Sunday was an example of, like, some games are just not going to be perfect. And so you are going to have to sometimes, like, do a little bit more on offense to win the game. And I think that was kind of exposed in this one.
It's a very fair argument. And when people say that, sometimes it's not really right or wrong. It's like philosophy based, right?
Yeah.
So for me, that's not the idea that was wrong or right. That's not really how I look at this one. And I think I appreciate what you're saying, because I'll be honest with you, the third down call, I wasn't really on board with. However, sometimes as offense coordinators, I don't care what level it is, we start to overthink things. We start to do things. And this might not be the case, because I did not like that call. Now, when you say be more aggressive, their best player in the game, without question, was Junkins.
Yeah. So
Judd getting the ball, and they ran inside behind their veterans. So they had ran against loaded boxes all game and got yards. So I was okay with that. Best player of the game behind your big studs inside. I did not like the third down call, but my thought process would be sometimes coaches, we go, yeah, they know we're going to run it here. Here's where we're going to get them. Now, for me, I would have ran the ball, make them take the timeout. Because here's the way I look at it. If it just like you're saying, I want to take a risk. For me, my philosophy has always been I'm going to play to my strengths. And I'm an offensive guy and I love to throw it. I would throw it every time if I could. But when you have a really good defense and you're in that situation with Carson Wentz being hurt, that offensive line starting to kind of waver a little bit, the defensive line started to control a little bit. They did it in that drive, great drive by them. But before the punt, I'm thinking to myself, the only way we can lose this game is if we turn it over and we give them a short field. That's the only way we can lose this game. In fact, I don't even think they're thinking about a touchdown. The only way they can kick a field goal is if we give them a short field with a turnover. That's why I didn't like the third down call. But the mindset was probably like, that's what everybody's thinking. I'm going to roll the dice. I didn't like it. I would have ran the ball and make them take that last timeout. And then I'm going to punt the ball, and I'm going to say, like, which I've said to you, and you and I talk all the time. I am going to punt the ball in that situation. That's why I would have ran it, because it was 3rd and 11. You have a rookie quarterback. Now he throws the ball, he throws an interception. Everybody goes, why would you not run the ball there? That's stupid. Short field.
It's Jordan Love. It's Jordan Love from a couple weeks ago, right? With the
so my thing is this: it was conservative. I respect people's thought of let's go win it. That's what I'm thinking too. Let's protect the ball. Let's go win it. Let's put our alphas out there. Let's put Myles Garrett out there. For me, it's always thought of in the game of football. My dad taught me this. Everybody always thinks about being conservative because you don't throw the ball on offense. Well, if the goal was to be aggressive, I'm going to be aggressive with my defense, which kind of brings me to my last point. That was a hard thing because they weren't getting pressure with 4. Got to give the Vikings some credit more than sometimes some other teams are allowed to make plays too, and they did in that last drive. But for me, I'm thinking the same process you're thinking about being aggressive. For me, I'm putting my alphas on the field, and that's Myles Garrett and the boys. So, I don't know. I don't want Myles Garrett standing on the sideline. If you're telling me at the end of every game, you can have a team has to go 80 yards, or you have to go 60 yards with this offense. I'm taking the 80 yards with my D on the field every single time. Now, it didn't work out, and that's the bottom line as well. It's just like, What if he completes that pass on third down? We're all going, that was great because everybody thought they were going to run it there. And that's the nature of this game, and especially Browns fans, because they're invested and they care. So when people tell me I'm crazy and all that, I kind of like it because I don't want to be anywhere where people don't care. I don't want to be where there's no anticipation of excellence or expectations. That's what people, and it didn't work. Yeah. But it doesn't mean you have to roll. It doesn't mean you don't have to fire everybody. That's my thought. You don't have to fire everybody.
Right.
There's some questionable calls, and that's why you get paid the big bucks, because you make, sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But I'm thinking the same process as you. But that's what my aggression is. I'm getting as an offensive coordinator for 25 years, I want that defense on the field if it's me winning the football game.
Yeah, I think that's well said. And I obviously appreciate your perspective on it as well. And yeah, I understand too, where like it's a double-edged sword. Like you're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't. It's just kind of the nature of the beast. But I can say philosophically for me, like the idea of just trying to win the game rather than like bank on it being the other team's the sort of doing if they go down the field on you. I don't know. There's something about that. And maybe it's again a newer age thing that I like, but yeah, I get the circumstances, and obviously you got a great defense. So in some respects, I get what Kevin Stefanski was thinking there. We'll get out of here with this, Lance. We got like a minute left here. What do you notice about the Steelers here, sort of on the early going as the Browns get ready for that matchup next week?
Well, just getting into it, it's going to be an odd front, really good inside. They got a bunch of good players on the edge. They rush the passer. Obviously, T.J. Watt is is an outstanding player. Patrick Queen inside is an outstanding. They're really good on defense, and they run that odd front. Offensively, Aaron Rodgers, to me, is playing really well, but he is definitely slowed down. So what I mean by that, he's never been a runner, but he's not as good within the pocket as he's always been. Again, this is a guy they can get after. This is an offensive line they can get after. However, I thought the Vikings did a very good job with the banged-up line blocking these guys. So whatever in this copycat league, so whatever the Vikings did, as I'm breaking down the Vikings, this has been a really tough game to break down for me because the Vikings did a nice job up front against this defensive line in the first half in pass protection. They chipped a lot. They did some different quick sets and things like that. So very good defense. Aaron Rodgers good. Obviously, Metcalf is a stud outside. Again, though, offensively, they're just okay. This is, they got an alpha outside. It's very similar on offense. Aaron Rodgers is a little bit better than Carson Wentz, but Carson Wentz made some plays. It's a game that's going to come down to, again, I think it'll be very competitive. And hopefully, I think Dillon Gabriel is going to have to make a couple more chunk plays. And I think he will. I think this is a game, I look at it as it's a loss is a loss, but this is a chance. They got a chance to win this game for sure.
It's another episode Down with You, Dog Pound. And thank you for joining me as always to talk about your favorite football team. As always, we are so grateful that Lance Reisland stops by each week to sort of give us some of his time here and break it all down with you. I hope that when you leave these episodes with Lance, especially, I hope you learn something from me too when I'm on my own. But when Lance is here, I really hope you learn something. So if you like what you heard, hit that subscribe button, make Locked On Browns your first episode or your first listen every day, wherever you get your podcasts, and at the Locked On Browns YouTube channel. For your second listen, make sure you check out the Locked On NFL podcast. You can get that wherever you get your podcasts and at the Locked On NFL YouTube channel, or you can keep it local. Check out Locked On Cavs or Locked On Guardians. Thank you as always for being an everydayer at the Locked On Podcast Network. I'll talk to you again on Wednesday, Cleveland. See you.